What's up, creative? How are you doing? Welcome to this video. So if you're new to this channel or you've seen any of my videos before, double twale for you. So if you're a beginner photographer or you've been taking pictures before but in auto mode and you want to migrate to taking pictures in manual, or you just happen to have a professional camera lying around and you want to explore the photography world, this video is for you. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be breaking down the exposure triangle, and I'll be breaking it down in a way that it's going to be easy for a 5-year-old to understand. I mean, practically anyone who watches this video will understand the concept, what the exposure triangle stands for and what each of them are. I'm ready if you are. Let's get it. So what exactly is this exposure triangle? Well, exposure triangle is a group of settings. It's made up of 3 settings which are there to ensure that your photo is not overexposed, which means your photo is not too bright or too dark. That's over or under exposed. These settings also make sure that it eliminates unnecessary or unwanted blur or noise from your images. These settings are the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed. So these settings are like a group of friends, a team of friends also, which work together to make sure that your photo is intact. So the first on the list is the ISO. Now, what does the ISO do? So the ISO controls the sensitivity of your camera sensor to light. Now, think of it this way. You're in a dark room and you need to see in the dark. There is no light anywhere. It is very dark. But you have these super spy glasses that allows you to see in the dark, more like a night vision glasses. Night vision goggles. Yeah, that's how ISO works. ISO is actually very artificial. So it just finds a way to make the available light, no matter how small, sufficient for your camera sensor to use to boost your image. But then it comes at a cost. ISO, if cranked up too much, introduces noise into your picture. Yeah, you get grains on your sensor, and sometimes it makes the image very messy, making it look like 1980s photo and all. So the effect of the ISO has a direct relationship with the ISO values. A low ISO of, let's say, 100 or 200 gives you less sensitivity to light, but then you get cleaner images. While a high ISO of, say, 1600, like 1600 and above, makes your sensor very, very, very sensitive to light, and then your image becomes very bright, but it introduces noise into your picture and ends up making it fuzzy like an old TV. So this means that the higher the ISO, the higher the sensitivity of your camera to light, the higher the grains that you have in your picture. The lower the ISO, the cleaner your image, and the lower the sensitivity of your camera sensor to light. So the bonus tip is, a high ISO is very useful when it is dark, very useful when you are indoor or when you don't have sufficient light around. And then a low ISO is very useful when it is sunny, when you're outdoor, when it is day, or you have enough light around you. So the rule of thumb is always make sure to use the lowest available ISO whenever you're shooting in any condition. The lowest available ISO whenever you're shooting. Number 2 on this list is the aperture. Now, what is the aperture? Aperture is a setting that controls how wide your camera lens opens in order to allow light to come in. Look at it this way. If you open a window wide, more light comes into the room. But if you open the window just a little light comes into the room. And aperture is measured in f-stops. You would see f-stop like f1.8, f2.8, 3.5, 5.0, and so on. Now, the effect of aperture in an image is inversely proportional to the value. Now, it is measured in f-stop. That means a low f-stop gives you a wider opening, just like the window analogy. So you have a wider opening of the camera lens, more light comes in, and you get a shallow depth of field. Whereby a high f-stop, say f11 and the likes, give you a little opening, you get less light into the camera through the lens, and then you get more depth of field. But here is the fun part. Aperture also controls how blurry the background of your image would be. So if you use a low f-stop, which allows more light in, that means a wider opening of the lens to allow more light to come in, you get a very blurry background, that's a shallow depth of field. This is good for portrait photography, wildlife, and the likes. And if you use a high f-stop, which means that less light is coming in, you get everything in focus. I mean, small hole gives you everything in focus, and you get less light also. Yeah, using a high f-stop is great for group photography, event photography, and also landscape photography. Now, the third item on this list is the shutter speed. The shutter speed controls how long your camera sensor is exposed to light. Let me break it down. Now we have the shutter and we have the speed. The speed of the shutter, that is the shutter speed. Now, what is the shutter? The shutter actually can be related to the lid of the human eyes, our eyelids, which we blink with. Yes, the camera also blinks in order to take a photo. For a picture to be recorded on the sensor or in a storage device of a camera has to blink. That is the chakam sound or the click sound we hear when a photo is taken. That is the shutter. So in order for that to happen, the shutter speed will have to control how long it takes that action to happen. That is what the settings, which is the shutter speed setting, that's what it does. And the shutter speed is measured in fractions of a second. The effect of the shutter speed has a direct relationship with the value. Now, for a fast shutter speed, if you take a photo with a fast shutter speed, let's say 1,000th of a second, it freezes motion. Say somebody jumps in the air and you take the photo, it freezes that person, freezes the action mid-air without any blur. It is good for say sports photography, it's good for sports photography, event sport photography, or anything that has to do, any shoots that has to do with spontaneous activity. While for a slow shutter speed, it captures the movement. You can see the trail. If you capture a moving object, you'll see the blur following the object. A moving car, the blur will definitely follow it. It won't be clear, but it allows more light to come into the camera because the shutter was exposed for longer, or the sensor was exposed for longer by the shutter. That the speed it took for it to close and open is slower, 1/10 of a second. That is why you can see the trail. Let's take the flash, for example. You can't see the flash, but you can see his stripe, the red and golden yellow stripe while he's running. There's a flash of the DC universe. So something like that is what the slow shutter speed does. It shows the movement. It almost shows it moving. There's blur everywhere, the motion blur. So it's good for light painting, portrait photography, or any form of long exposure photography.
So this here is a Canon 5D Mark III, a DSLR camera, and I'm going to be using it for this illustration. Now, this is the shutter speed. That's the shutter speed. That is the aperture, and that is the ISO. So if you want to change these settings, that is where you change them. That is 200 of a second, 250th of a second, and so on. And same with this is the lowest f-stop of that you can see in the camera is actually an attribute of the lens. So I'm using a 50 mm Canon 50 mm lens, and that is the lowest, that's the widest aperture that you can get on that prime lens. So moving to the ISO, you can see the ISOs here. The lowest is 100 and can go all the way to 25,600 to 51,200 to 100,000 if need be, but be prepared for a lot of noise. Yes. The shutter speed. So I'll take the shutter speed to, let's say, 100 because I'm not shooting any moving objects. So let's say 100, and then this is very open. This is wide open, wide open. Because I want a blurry background, I'm going to keep it at 1.8, and I need the aperture, the opening to be wide, the lens to be wide open. So the ISO is still on 100. But let me switch to live view so you can see what we're talking about. You can see that the subject is still very, very dark. So I'm going to crank up the ISO. This is the subject. This is the ISO. I'm going to compensate for the setting with the ISO. You can see as I'm increasing it, it's getting brighter. As I'm increasing it, it's getting brighter. As I'm increasing it, it's getting brighter. So I'm going to try and shoot. Can you see? It is now in focus. So that is a Canon 760D. Canon 760D, right there. It's a crop lens, crop frame camera. So that is it. And if I increase the ISO, let's try and increase the ISO. Let's crank it up. Let's crank it up. You can see your image is becoming overexposed. Let me try and take the photo. Can you see? So the ISO is too much here. So I'm going to bring it back down to say about 250, yeah, 225, yeah. This is good. Let me move this backward a little. So you can see what the image looks like. Very fine, blurry background. And it is like that because we kept it as at 100th of a second shutter speed. We opened the aperture very wide in order to allow a lot of light to come into the lens. And then the ISO was taken up because this is a low light photography. So that is how you should take your shot when you want to take your shot. Always make sure that you set your shutter speed first before you set your aperture, and then before you set your ISO to compensate for the other two. So now let's try some other things. Let's try increasing the aperture, the f-stop rather. Let's say f11. We've taken it to f11. Let's see how it's going to look like taking this photo. Can you see? It is very, very dark. I'm going to switch to live mode. Can you see? It is very, very dark. So because it is dark, enough light is not coming into the camera lens because we've taken the f-stop up, which means that the lens is closed. The lens is the opening is very, very narrow. The opening is very, very small. So in order to open that, or to compensate for that, you have to take the ISO up again. So that was why I said whenever you touch any setting, you have to compensate for that setting with the other one. Now you can see the noise. The noise is now visible. Let's take the photo. This photo is not focusing. You can see the noise in the photo. You can see the noise in the photo. This is as a result of the high ISO. So the best way to do this is to always keep your ISO down. Let's bring your ISO to 100 and then go over to shutter speed. You can start from 100 depending on the type of photography that you are shooting. Now we are shooting a still object. So you start from 100 or between 100 and 250. 250th of a second. So I'll leave it at 100 again, and then we open the aperture. That means we use a smaller f-stop, which means a wider opening. Let's use a 2.0 this time, or a 2.2 this time. Now let's take the photo again. Now taking the photo again with this. Oh, sorry. The ISO was supposed to go up in order to compensate. Yes. Yeah. You can see the difference between the two. Now let's zoom in. You can see that there's no noise here. You can see that there's no noise. There is no noise. There is no noise. That is how it is done.
So now you must have confirmed that the quality of your photo is highly dependent on how you know how to set the exposure triangle. And as you saw, that the exposure triangle was represented by an equilateral triangle, which means that a triangle with 3 equal sides. That means the balance must be kept. If you touch any of the settings, you have to compensate for that setting with the 2 other settings. They work hand in hand, you can't separate them. So I would advise you, as a beginner photographer or somebody just picking up a camera for the first time, I would advise that whenever you want to shoot, whenever you want to take a photo, you should always set your exposure triangle in this order. So first you have to touch your shutter speed before you touch the aperture and the ISO. Why? Is because you have to determine the type of photography or the type of photo you want to shoot. Is the object or the subject stationary? Is the subject moving? So that would give you a hint on the shutter speed to set. After setting that, then you move to the aperture. Do you want it to have a blurry background, or you want everything to be in focus? That will also give you a hint on the aperture to set. Do you want it to be wide open for more light to come in, just like the window analogy, you set the aperture. Then you move to the ISO. So the ISO is meant to compensate for the two other settings. As we said earlier, the ISO is artificial light. So it's just to boost the boost the sensitivity of the sensor of the camera to light. So if you're shooting in low light or shooting at night or in a very dark space, yeah, the ISO should be cranked up. But then use the lowest possible ISO that you can use. Yes, so you don't have noise in the photo. So again, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. And anytime you touch any of these settings, you have to be vigilant. Check it very well. If you touch any of them, make sure that you compensate for the two other settings in order to have a good photo output. So that is it on exposure triangle. If you have any questions for me or you have a suggestion on what topic to take next, put it down in the comment section below. Or you have an input, you have something you want to say that I didn't cover, you can also put it down there. Let's have a discussion on it. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching till the end. Double tally for you. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Stay jiggy.